Hey, welcome to episode 63 of the Clive Barker podcast. This episode is Thomas Negovan. So if you don't know him, he's the owner of Century Guild Gallery. And he's right now the exclusive art representation for Clive Barker. So we talked a lot about the exhibition for Clive Barker's art that went on this past week. We talked about the book, the Kickstarter for the art book, and the way that they're doing the art book is amazing. So we learned a whole lot about the way that works, plans for the future for archiving Clive Barker's work, plans for the upcoming documentary, which so far has only really been teased, and we hadn't heard any information about it. So now we know kind of the thrust and the focus of that documentary. So that was also really cool, and we learned a lot of history of what happened with Clive Barker's previous art books. So this was a really interesting, really good podcast. And of course, the focus is on Clive Barker's art. So I hope you enjoy. In the news, the first thing was an update on Scarlet Gospels by Clive Barker on Facebook. It's not a huge update. It's basically just saying that the publisher had some notes for him, and he thought that they were smart ideas. So he's gonna.
The editor had some notes for him. The editor, right? Yeah. Not the publisher. So the editor,
for the publisher.
Is it? Is that what he said? Because I thought the editor was still Mark Miller for this book. I'm not sure. I mean, I'm just saying this. I was
thinking an editor kind of like Joanna Coulter is an editor.
Joanna Kotler?
Yeah, from
the Aberrat books.
Yeah. So just a quick update on the Scarlet Gospels. My editor has supplied me with his insights, which are smart and will be incorporated into my final pass before I turn it over to my publisher once and for all.
Right.
I don't have a definite publication date yet, but I promise as soon as I do, which won't be very long, it will be right here for you. Yeah, maybe you're right. I that's just the way I took it, but
like his editor for the Aberrat books is Joanna Kotler from the Kotler imprint of HarperCollins. And for the Scarlet Gospels, the last thing I heard, and I've heard this announced at least a couple of times over the years, was that Mark Miller was in fact the editor of the Scarlet Gospels. Okay. So that's why I was asking. We should actually ask if we have the chance. We should ask Mark Miller if Clive Barker was referring to him there. But
that's
interesting.
A good question, because I thought he had turned it over to his agent, who and then they gave it over to St. Martin's Press before.
Okay. Yeah, and I remember that. Also, part of the manuscript was typed by one of our previous guests in the podcast, the writer of the Hellraiser Annual.
Oh yeah, Ben Mears.
Mm-hmm. Ben Mears too. So that was still something that he experienced recently while he was working with Mark Miller, I think. Mm-hmm. That's why I was wondering if Mark Miller was still the editor that he's referring to.
Yeah, good question. We'll see if we can figure that out.
Yeah. But the exciting news is that, hey, it's on the way to being published, and it's not dead, and it's not standing still.
No, it's all good news. I mean, it's just a matter of a date. That's the only thing left to find out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Clive Barker related Sense with Black Phoenix Alchemy Labs. So this is kind of related to our Thomas Negovan and the Clive Barker Imaginer exhibit. But yeah, Clive Barker's teamed up with this Black Phoenix Alchemy Lab to create Sense, and they're all they're all based on lines from The Forbidden, the story, the Books of Blood story that Candyman is based on.
Right. We talked about that with Stephanie Rebaron, I think. Well, we talked about The Forbidden, and yeah, it's an interesting, kind of a curiosity thing that now they're doing these fragrances. And I we were talking about that the other day. You did that post on the blog, which said, "Hey, you ever wanted to know how Candyman smells like? Not sure that I do, but in any case, now you can."
Yeah, I just keep imagining like bees and rot, but I'm sure that's not what it smells like. But, or honey and rot.
Yeah, more like that, really. Honey is the thing that comes to mind. Probably, I wonder if the fragrance is sweet.
Yeah. Well, there's like 5 of them.
Yeah.
So, and then the next, this one just showed up from Phil and Sarah's Facebook today. It's the last chance to see the Clive Barker exhibit at the West Hollywood Library and the Tom Finland Foundation show at the MoCA Museum of Contemporary Art, Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm.
So that Clive Barker exhibit, I think that Alex had helped set up, right?
I think so, yeah. And it featured also artwork and actual pages from manuscripts as well, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know because I didn't go there, so I didn't see it. But
I thought movie props or movie posters and things like that, like
oh wow,
not strictly paintings and stuff, but more like what it's like to be over at the
concept art and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, this should be cool.
Yeah, so it's they say it's the last chance. Oh, a few more days. Okay. Yeah. So if you're in
Los
Angeles, definitely I'd go check that out.
Yeah. Because who knows when these things might be put on display again? Probably never.
Yeah. Oh, and we had some feedback that was just related to us and our podcast. Let's see. So Marcus Kuma says, "Hey guys, just listened to the podcast and want to mention something about the European Nightbreed DVDs. There's also a Scandinavian version with an English audio track and Danish, Norwegian, Swedish, and Finnish subtitles. The transfer's okay, but otherwise it's really a bare-bones release. You choose a subtitle and the movie starts. There aren't even menus of any sorts of extras whatsoever. Funny thing is, I bought it a few years ago from a random department store for something like €5, and at the time I had no idea it's supposed to be this rare. I guess you learn something new every day."
Yeah.
Well, that's cool.
Sometimes.
Yeah, does that make it region 2? What region would a Scandinavian DVD be?
Yeah, I think it would be region 2. That's Europe.
Yeah. So is all of Europe region 2? Well, all of Western Europe?
I think Russia is a different region.
Yeah. So Eastern Europe would be something else.
I think region 4. I don't know.
Yeah.
Let me think. I don't remember.
It all changed with Blu-rays too.
Right. There was a time when the Blu-rays didn't even have region locking. Glory days. But yeah, nowadays no.
I know.
Yeah, I think the DVD for Russia, Belarus, Ukraine, Kazakhstan is like region 4, and the rest is like region 2.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. And then Craig Reese said, "Probably the best Alaskan/Portuguese podcast about Clive Barker on the whole of the interwebs."
Thanks.
So thanks, Craig Reese.
Right. Well, actually, now the podcast started being a U.S.-Portuguese co-production, but now it's all American.
Yeah,
I think.
Our first
year or so.
Our first year, was Alaskan and Portuguese, but
first 15 months.
Yeah.
And now it's all American, baby.
That was like February a year ago that you moved.
Right.
Yeah.
March. It was actually March.
Was it in March? Okay. Yeah, I think originally you planned on February, and then that didn't work out.
Yeah. But thanks. It's really that you actually raised a good issue. It's like, hey, if we had a box set, that would be on the box set cover. Hey, well, we don't have a box set. Yeah. I mean, the thing is, you can go on iTunes and leave us a feedback there.
Yeah, actually, that would be the perfect place to write that.
Yeah, actually, that would be great. If anyone can, give us some feedback on iTunes, that would be great because, the more feedback we have, the more people we can reach.
Yeah, because then iTunes pushes us up on the featured list, and and I know we're a little more specialized than a lot of other podcasts out there, but we have a lot of stuff to talk about.
Yeah, we do.
All right. Well, it was kind of it for news.
Oh, can I just bring another thing? Yeah. I would just like to expound on the whole Clive Barker's The Forbidden and Black Alchemy. Mm-hmm. The website blackphoenixalchemylab.com, that's kind of a mouthful, but it's blackphoenixalchemylab.com. You can read, about the products that they're putting out. So they claim that it's a tremendous honor to work with Clive Barker, and they're very happy and grateful to Clive Barker and Mark Miller for making this project possible. And the fragrances they have, I think it's called the Day Burned White.
Yeah.
And Foolish and Vacuous, a scent with no depth, a light, reedy, almost vapid take on a classic men's fougere. I don't know. And Sweets for the Sweet, which is sugar upon sugar, honey upon honey, white cane sugar, and honey absolute. And that's it. Those are the fragrances. So you can find them at Black Phoenix Alchemy Lab. And I think that the retail price on these things is probably $26 per fragrance.
Oh,
I think.
Okay. There we go. Yeah.
And they're the first collection of scents dedicated to Clive Barker's body of work. First fragrances in the series are inspired by a tale from Volume 5, The Forbidden. So I wonder if this means that there will be more fragrances. I wonder if they'll do
Cenobites.
Vanilla. It's going to be vanilla.
Yeah.
And the Madonna. Will it smell like chlorinated pool water?
Yeah.
It's interesting. Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot more weird stuff that we can think about.
Yeah.
Semen and blood.
Right. Yep, from the floorboards of Hellbound Heart.
Yeah. Anything's possible.
Yep.
So yeah, we're going to have in this episode Thomas Negovan, who's the founder of Century Guild Gallery, who had started out in 1999 in Chicago and then moved to Los Angeles, and now they are the official exclusive representatives of Clive Barker's artwork. And there was a press release a while back in October of last year. It was back in October 19th, and there is an actual press release on the internet where you can read October 19th, Clive Barker and the Théâtre, I'm going to use my French pronunciation here, Théâtre du Grand Guignol in our Los Angeles gallery, and it is with immense pleasure that Century Guild announced its exclusive representation for the art of Clive Barker. And then they went on to say, Clive Barker is an artist who defies description, pure imagination, barely captured in any medium. The universes that he downloads from some otherworldly source explode onto his canvases and eventually make their way into his literature. So this was back when they created that very special celebration of the Parisian Theater of Terror, which Clive Barker has mentioned in several interviews over the years, the Grand Guignol Theater. And that was actually the title of the exhibit. It was Grand Guignol Thanatos. Thanatos is like the god of death, the Greek god of death, I think. Mm. So,
and that exhibition was in October, and it also had there were other artists.
Yeah, it was about the Theater of Terror. It was not that was the theme of it. It was not just strictly Clive Barker. So it involved other artists over the years, like Gustav Klimt, Alphonse Mucha, and Jeremy Bastian. The Black Phoenix Alchemy Lab was involved with this exhibition as well. They had Dave McKean, Gil Pataki, Malleus Rock Art Lab, which I'm not sure if they were the ones who made the poster. I don't know who made the poster for that. You know the poster where there's Death in the Maiden?
Yeah.
And there's the letters inside the image, and it's very beautiful. I would like to I'll definitely ask Thomas Negovan who was the artist for that poster. So yeah, that was back when in October of last year. So now they're doing the Clive Barker Imaginer, and they have a Kickstarter to fund the book and the documentary, because this exhibition will have not just an exhibition catalog, but also give birth to a book, an art book. You know, if you have the that book that was published by Rizzoli from Clive Barker, Visions of Heaven and Hell.
Yes,
that's a really good book. Right. Yeah, that is a really good book. I love it. I just have some issues about it because the book had this gold paint on the edges of the pages, and my book had the pages glued together. So I had a hard time ungluing the pages.
I remember that.
Yeah. I think that was something that I remember other people complained a little bit about. But, you know, I had to use like a knife and gently pry the pages open because, yeah.
One of the signings for Mr. Be Gone, there was like a question and answer thing, and one person raised their hand and said, "Is there a book that we can get that has your art in it?" And so I lifted up my Visions of Heaven and Hell, and Clive Barker goes, "There it is, right there. He's got it." So I was like, that was my moment in the sun that day.
Yeah. Well, there's not just that book. There's a bunch of books with his artwork in there.
Yeah, there's Illustrator 1 and 2 and Pandemonium.
That was kind of a silly question.
And the Abrat books. I mean, they're not strictly art books, but...
Oh, yeah. Well, there you go. I mean, the art book. Yeah, Aberrat is totally a perfect hybrid between an art book and an actual written book.
And Jump Tribe.
Sure. Sure, why not?
Yeah.
I still haven't gotten into Jump Tribe. I still haven't, you know, either that or the Infernal Parade. And I only have like a handful of like NECA Hellraiser figures. Sometimes I wish that I could have more talent in painting kits, because there's so many cool kits about Hellraiser out there. I would love to have those things.
Like those 2 foot
on a shelf.
Those 2 foot tall Cenobites and stuff.
But unfortunately, my painting skills are crap. So I know if I bought it, I would either just have it plain white, plain white on my shelf, which would be bland and uninteresting, or I would just have it like terribly painted,
I would mess one of those up too. That's why I never bought one.
Yeah. And just to have it in the box, I mean, I really don't feel the urge to buy it, just to keep it in the box in the closet.
And the comic shop here in Fairbanks, because I would spend my summers up here, even though I lived in Seattle with my mom, but I would spend my summers up here with my dad, and the comic shop here had one of those. It had a pinhead, and I would see that, and I would see like Giger's Alien there that I always wanted to buy, and I just never had the money for any of that stuff. Right.
You know, do you have that book from Giger? Do you have any books from Giger?
Oh yeah, I have all of them from through the 90s.
Do you have the Necronomicon book?
Yep, I have Necronomicon and Necronomicon 2 and Giger's Alien and the one that has what is that movie? Species. Yeah, I have the Species book.
Oh, cool.
And then there's another rare book that I just picked up at a used bookstore just a couple of years ago, and I can't remember the name of it now.
Giger.com or because there's an anthology book of his artwork called Giger.com.
Oh no, it's not that.
Biomechanoid.
Oh, Biomechanics. That's another one, but that's not it. It was a weird one that I'd never seen before.
Cool. I have some books from Giger as well. I never know how to pronounce it. But
I'll take a picture of it for the show notes.
Sure.
Yeah.
I always pronounce it Geiger because I think that's like German pronunciation, but or Giger, I don't know.
Yeah, I've seen him say Giger, and because I used to say Geiger when I was in high school, and then I heard that I was like, oh god, I've been saying it wrong for.
Yeah, maybe because we don't want to pronounce it like the Geiger counter.
Yeah.
But anyway, so Clive Barker did the intro or
for the Necronomicon.
Yep. Is your book the giant book, the big book?
Yeah, the big coffee table one.
Right, because I saw that.
I've got it in a closet right now.
Yeah, that's not actually a shelf book.
No.
If it was the way I recall it, it was like a foot high or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want to terrify Joey with that stuff, so I've got a secret closet behind a bookshelf.
Oh, okay.
That's on hinges, so you like pull off a lever, and then the bookshelf swings open, and there's a closet behind there, and all the stuff that I don't want Joey to get into is back in there.
Crafty. So you have a superhero hiding spot.
It's weird because this is my dad's house. He put that in there. I don't know why. I think so. The idea is really boring. It's just that he wanted this room that could either be an office or a bedroom.
Maybe your dad was a superhero and you never knew.
Yeah.
And he's now fighting crime in Panama.
Yeah, I've got weapons in there too, just swords and stuff.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And having done a lot of exhibitions for my Collectors Association, where we have to, and not just the Collectors Association, but the Philatelic Federation, and my brother's, Ornithological Federation that is the branch that belongs to Portugal.
Yeah.
And we have done like exhibitions where they had like 12,000 birds, or people from different countries, or and we're talking about birds here, and birds are even more work than paintings, because birds how do you feed 12 or 14,000 birds overnight?
Wow.
Yeah, you need a bunch of people doing that. So it takes a lot of time to put everything in place.
And you don't
set
have
the
to
lights.
feed the paintings.
You don't have to feed the paintings, but you have to make sure that the people visiting the exhibit, everything is okay, everything is safe, the lights are working properly, insurance is in place, and usually, and being a gallery owner, I'm sure that he's doing all sorts of like contacts with different people.
I had a weird thing that happened on Twitter with
what?
So with the Occupy Median Twitter, some guy had said like, I can't wait until the Cabal cut comes out so we can all see it. And so I came in and I said, okay, well, it's not, it won't exactly be the Cabal cut. It's going to be new. It's, Clive Barker and Shout Factory are going to be starting from scratch. And then he wrote, I don't think Clive Barker will do anything wrong, but at least we will have it. And then Clive Barker favorited that tweet. It's like, I didn't say he's going to do something wrong. I'm just saying it's not the Cabal cut.
Well, that's interesting.
Yeah, but it's kind of like, oh, why do you favor that? I wasn't trying to say, that he's going to do something wrong.
It's strange because it seems to me like people were getting a little too hung up on the Cabal cut.
Yeah.
And the director's cut is going to be probably almost 90% just like the Cabal cut.
Hello?
Hey, how's it going?
Good, how are you?
Pretty good. Sorry about the delay. I was putting the baby to sleep, and he decided he wanted another dinner.
Oh, that's no problem.
Hi, my name is Jose, and you're talking to Ryan right now. Thanks for the opportunity to get to talk to you a little bit about Clive Barker Imaginer.
No, I appreciate you taking the time.
So how So for people out there that don't know, this is how do you say Negovan?
I do, actually.
Okay.
You're probably the first person ever to get that right.
All right. This is Thomas Negovan, and you of the Century Guild.
Founder of the Century Guild Art Gallery. You're a writer, musician, and art historian from Chicago, right?
Yes.
And you're currently representing artists that include not only Clive Barker, but Jeremy Bastian, Doc Hammer, Steve Kilby, Yoan Lassell, David Black, Malleus, Dave McKean, one of my favorite artists, and Gail Pataki.
Yeah, I missed some names in the middle there, but I think that we're all on the same page. Yeah. I didn't hear some of the names in the middle, so I hate to say yes and then have them be wrong, but yeah.
Would you like me to repeat?
I just heard the word black, I thought, in there.
David Mack. I'm sorry.
David Mack, yes.
Okay. I may have mispronounced that one. Thank you for pointing that out.
Oh, no, it's no problem. I didn't want to get a call from Louis Black, the comedian, tomorrow. Saying you're doing a terrible job.
So was yesterday, the 25th, was that the last official day of the Clive Barker Imaginer event?
Yes. Yeah. Yes. The opening was last weekend, and so we had a huge event for that. And then the following week, which was this past weekend, we were open for 3 days, and that was kind of when a lot of the public came through. And then we took some of it down tonight because we're taking a bunch of paintings up to San Francisco for a festival that Kirk Hammett has put together, and that'll be February 6th through 9th, so we'll have a bunch of the paintings there up in San Francisco.
Kirk Hammett from Metallica?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he's got a huge collection of original movie props, original costumes. Like he'll have a Bela Lugosi costume and then have someone make a wax statue of Bela in the movie, and then put, like in his house, he'll have the costume on the statue with the original movie poster behind it. And so what he's doing is taking all of these great rare props and putting them out for the public to see. And he was kind enough to ask us if we wanted to intermingle some Clive Barker paintings in there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's going to be exciting. It's going to be really cool.
Jose actually owns the medallion that Lylesburg wears in Nightbreed.
Yes,
the one
I do.
that opens the cage that the berserkers, that lets out the berserkers.
Yeah, I do have that one.
When you hear Metallica, you think of berserkers.
Actually, that would be a nice moment for the Metallica to kick into Nightbreed at that moment. That would be nice.
Yeah, it's I mean, look at it this way. Imagine if you had Kirk's checkbook and could collect all the movie props that you wanted.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
that would be really cool.
So much great stuff. And
so there's no Clive Barker related props that are going up there?
We have one thing that's going up. I'm actually looking at it right now, and it is a Cenobite costume that's never been seen.
Oh.
And it is a costume that Clive co-created with Todd Waters and Juliana Mayo of Junker Designs. And no one's seen it. We don't really know what it's from yet. It's something that Clive imagined. And he's got an idea for a series of 12 photos that he's going to take with it. But at this point, it's just physically the costume on this mannequin.
Oh.
And people saw it for the first time at the opening of the exhibition last weekend. Mm-hmm. And then we're taking it up to San Francisco for Kirk Hammett's show.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
And then at the end of the month, it's going down to Texas for an exhibition down there. I don't have the details on that yet.
Wow. So for this exhibition, what's the exhibition called? We'll try to see if we can find a link to put in the show notes so people can see that costume.
The Kirk Hammett one is called Kirk Von Hammett's Fear Fest Evil. EVIL. It's not just a festival. It's
magnificent. I think I've seen recently an image of the Cenobite priest outfit from Junker Designs in their own Facebook.
Oh, really?
That's entirely possible because, like I said, we did open it up to the public on the 18th, and I'm sure there's a lot of people snapshots that are circulating on the web right now.
So
there's.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was going to say there is one on the Junker Designs page. If it's the same thing, it's beautiful. It's got this.
There's only one. There's only one. So yeah, it's fantastic in person.
It's got this kind of like this stole with the faces of the lament configuration, and there's a bunch of implements around the belt, including I think it's an axe or a hammer or something. There's a lot of. It's very beautiful.
Yeah, there's a lot of tools and. I did hear it referred to at one point as the oldest Cenobite, but I don't know if that's directly from the mouth of Clive or not, but there is something very royal about this costume.
Absolutely. If it's the same I'm looking at from Junker Designs on their own Facebook, it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, no, that's the only thing they've done with Junkers, so it's definitely the same one.
It says here, armor pieces constructed by the mighty Tyson Tabbert. Stay tuned to more chances to view this costume as it goes on tour. Oh. So that's beautiful right there.
Yeah.
Do we know when this costume was made?
It was something that they had started work on a long time ago. It's been a work in progress for a long time. And I do know that right before it came to us, the lament configurations and things like that were finally done with touch-up. And so, I mean, it's been a long process, but this is the first time it's been shown anywhere.
Huh.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And how many? I'm sure there was a complete success, but was it very crowded at the Clive Barker Imaginer exhibition during these last 3 days?
Yeah. I mean, over the weekend we had a lot of people here. The opening night itself was ridiculously busy. There was a line down the block.
Oh wow.
The place was completely standing room only the entire time. And, I mean, we knew that it would be a success. I feel bad when people have to wait in line to get in to see things, but this was definitely something that the response was a lot more dramatic than I had expected.
Amazing. And I would like to congratulate you, by the way, on the successful Kickstarter. For those who haven't checked in, around Thursday evening, it just made over the amount that was required for the Clive Barker Imaginer exhibition book, and
yes.
There's a bunch of goodies that are available for backers on Kickstarter for this project.
So now it's almost 39,000 out of 35,000.
Yes, yeah. The basically, in order to just make the book, we figured out that it was going to cost the $35,000, after they take their cut and all of that. Mm-hmm. Getting the photographer paid, things like that. But so that really just covers the book. A lot of the things that we're doing with all of the scanning of his archives, going through his notebooks, all of those things, that's stuff that we are doing as a labor of love right now. Mm-hmm. So one of the things that we're hoping is that if it does continue to climb a little bit, that we'll be able to pay for more helpers to just keep facilitating, making sure that everything is properly archived.
And now, if you want this to be a secret, that's okay. But we were just curious is this going to be all paintings, or will it be a mix of paintings and drawings and ink drawings and stuff like that?
I would say it's going to be really, really heavy on the paintings.
Okay.
I'm torn because I think that I mentioned that it would be paintings and drawings, but I'm almost wondering if a book of drawings by themselves wouldn't be best served. A lot of the drawings being smaller when you put them on a page next to a huge painting that's been reduced. It doesn't have this. I mean, so I think as we're doing the layout, as we're getting further along with it, we're just going to defer in the direction of what makes a really beautiful art book.
You could do Clive Barker Illustrator 3.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that's happened with all of the older art books is that the captures are not very good. When you look at the Illustrator books, a lot of the black and white line art, the images are low resolution or they're blurry. Mm-hmm. That's just something, as someone who really loves fine art books, that was, to me, really painful. So that's a huge part of what we're doing is going back and getting really sharp, crisp, high-resolution captures of everything.
So it was the limitation of the technology in the early 90s when they made those.
the political answer would be yes. The honest answer is that, there are things that were photographed and documented 100 years ago that the image captures still hold up.
I see.
Certainly, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think that people had more enthusiasm than they maybe had skill set.
Oh, okay.
And so what we've done with this is that the person that we've hired to come in and do this is, literally one of the best in the country. The scanner that he uses is a $15,000 scanner. It's the same kind they use at the Vatican.
Wow.
So the level with which we're approaching this is that we want somebody who's in Norway to be able to look at an image and really get what it feels like to be in front of the paintings. And so much of what Clive does is very visceral. The scratching, the piling up of paint, all of those things. And if you've got if you've got a photograph that's blurry and not color corrected and a little bit darkened and things like that, you really don't get even 1% of what the true experience is. And so
you lose the texture.
Yeah, I know you guys have the Visions of Heaven and Hell book.
Yes.
But when you go through that, most of those paintings are really low resolution images that got blown up to be printed in there. And if you hold it next to the painting, it's just, when Clive saw the captures that we did, the first phrase he said is, "It's like chalk and cheese." And the British slang saying of like the difference between eating a piece of chalk and eating a piece of cheese. And
Absolutely.
Yeah.
In fact,
it's very, very.
I've never heard that one before.
In fact, Clive Barker posted this on January 13. He said, "The prints made from my paintings are a revelation. I have compared the original oil paintings with these prints, and their truthfulness is beyond belief. The colors, the textures, the flow of my paint-leaden brush over the canvas, hesitant one moment and surging forward in a confident sweep the next. There is so much information in these prints that studying them made me recall how they'd been painting. Astonishing." So that just straight from Clive indicates how happy he is with this work. And even in the Kickstarter, you guys have mentioned that you have been using a high-resolution scan-back camera with a Hasselblad lens.
It's funny. I actually am wrong about the lens. I haven't changed it yet, but the photographer contacted me and clarified what kind of lens it was. And I guess that it's kind of like when maybe you're not into high-end sports cars and you say like Lamborghini, and then a guy who's really into sports cars says, "Oh, that's a cheap car." So I guess that the lenses that he uses, he said, "Oh, no, the lenses we use are 10 times better than Hasselblad."
Oh.
So I don't remember what they are. I do need to change that. But yeah, he's got a scan-back camera, and it looks like something from a science fiction movie. It focuses using light and sound, and so it makes this weird noise that he has to dial in a frequency, and that's when it's perfectly in focus, and he has to use a series of mirrors in order to make sure that the alignment is perfect. And so unfortunately, the process is so time-consuming that we only get a couple captures a day. The color correcting is very, very expensive and intensive because we do wet proofs on each painting. But the end result is the way that the photographer defines it. He said it's future-proof. The idea being that we could, right now, make a print to scale of the paintings, and if you were standing 10 feet away, you wouldn't be able to tell that it wasn't.
That's fascinating.
Wow. Well, now I'm really excited about when this book comes out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you see them comparing them to anything you've ever seen, even the Abarat book covers, any of that, these things look so as close as humanly possible to what the paintings look like. And it's, it's really going to surprise people.
Wow. So it's going to be, probably Abarat 4, they won't be able to use that same technique for putting the paintings into that book.
No, we're definitely, the difference is that when you look at the books like Abarat, a lot of those images are pretty low resolution.
Yeah.
But I think when you're reading a story and you're just kind of getting a fragment of an idea, you're not analyzing the graphics in the same way that you will if you're looking at an art book. So the only thing that'll happen that's different is that in Aberrat 4 is that the quality of all of those small pictures will go up just because we have better images for them. Something else that is kind of in the distant future is we absolutely, once Aberrat 5 is finished, we do want to do a really big deluxe book and do every painting from Aberrat.
Oh, that would be amazing.
When you go through and you look at, like, I don't know, one that really stands out for me is like the Stitchling's Howl or like the Resurrection of Christopher Carrion. Yeah. When you look at them in the book, they just completely, they look like black and white splotches. You don't realize how much density there is and how much, I guess, vibrance.
Yeah, and there are some that aren't full page. They're just kind of in a corner or down on the lower third of the page or something like that.
What's funny about those is some of those things that look like really small little afterthoughts. Mm-hmm. The paintings are 4 feet, 5 feet tall.
Oh wow! Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, that'll be amazing.
I've looked at a painting and I look at it. It's kind of like a weird thing on a white background, and it's just like this one blob of an idea. And then they'll show me, oh, well, this is where it was in Aberrat. I mean, so he really, even those things that look like they're just small elements, he put a lot of thought and a lot of time into.
So this is really interesting news, then, that you're not only just digitizing the paintings for this upcoming art book, but other paintings as well.
Well, the plan is to basically document everything about Clive. We are scanning all the notebooks.
Whoa!
He's got drawers filled with just torn pages that have monster ideas and little sketches for how, little notes about how the mechanisms of their brain eating work or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. There's so much cast off ideas that it needs to all be documented. So we want to have a digital archive of every painting and every drawing, and it's definitely not a short-term project.
No.
But it's, I think it's important, and so we're just kind of taking it 1 year at a time and,
wow.
Borrowing things back as we can. And, this book is just kind of, I think, the first step. And the reason we're making the 1,000 hardcover, part of it, I guess, is to gauge interest and to see if people, let's put it this way. If people said, wow, we would love to have 10 volumes like this, we will keep putting them out. If people say, no, you know what, I'm just kind of happy to have a sampler, then we might wait until it's time to do an Aberrat art book or something like that. But at this point, we just want to make sure that everything is really well documented. And, I think 50, 100 years from now, it's going to be important that it was done.
People like Jose and I are kind of more around the super fans, so we don't really get to see what the general public thinks about stuff like that. We just know how excited that we are, about art books and these kind of things. Do you know, or has Clive said how successful Visions of Heaven and Hell was?
From what I understand, Visions of Heaven and Hell was never released. From what I understand, you guys probably have copies where the gilt on the edge sticks together on a lot of the pages.
Mm. Yes, I have complained about that. Yeah. Even just like on Thursday, I was talking to Ryan, and we were eventually, inevitably, we were talking about the upcoming Clive Barker Imaginer book, and I was telling about the experience of owning the Rizzoli book, Visions of Heaven and Hell, and how the gilding on the pages actually stuck them all together, and I had a hard time to actually separate them. So.
Well, what happened is when the books got over-gilt, as they did, when it came time for the publisher to reprint it properly, they instead opted to just remainder the books, is what I understand. And so what that means is that out of the print run, most of them were destroyed and pulped.
Oh, wow.
And so they did release some into the world, and that's the reason why you can find them on Amazon.
For $400 or something.
Well, you can find some for pretty cheap, but the thing is just that they're all people will tell me, oh yeah, no, but I got a bad copy because the edges are all stuck together. And then I'll tell them, no, they're all like that.
That is fascinating. I had no idea that had happened. That's interesting.
So the reason we're calling this kind of like the first proper release is because even though that book was printed, it was never distributed through bookstores.
Yeah, I did get it through the internet, so I think I did some kind. It's been a while. I don't remember how I ordered it, but I know that I ordered it.
2006, I think, or something like that it came out.
Yeah, I think so. I think it was around that time.
That's the thing too. I mean, like, again, like I'm not being very political about this, but the book design and the images are really low quality. There's, when you look at like horizontal images where the gutter of the book is like completely. There's one where it's got the last view of Christopher Carrion where he's fading into the darkness, and they turned it horizontally and put the gutter right in the middle of his face. Like there's all these things about it.
I know exactly what you mean. Yeah.
So I feel like it was.
But it was still the best art book that we'd had to that point.
It was the only,
I mean,
true.
The Illustrator books weren't nearly as high quality as that.
Right.
No.
Yeah. No, I mean, and it looks, if you weren't tuning into it with a fine eye, the cover design was fantastic. The gilt edges was a beautiful touch.
I had no idea that had happened to that book.
Yeah.
So they had planned to reprint it again, and there was never like a trade edition that would explain that.
What basically I think contractually happens in a situation like that is they had the right, like Clive had the right to say this isn't okay to put out, and they had the right then to cut their losses and just say that it wasn't worth it to them to do an entire other print run.
Well, I would hopefully. I mean, I don't know how these things work, but it'd be nice if they at least could, give Clive some money to do that. But
I mean, that was so long ago that all we're focusing on is just making sure that the images that we're capturing are crystalline in their quality, that the color corrections that we're doing, like if you bring that Heaven and Hell book into a room with a bunch of his paintings, it just, the book falls apart. And we want to have a book that doesn't fall apart under that scrutiny.
It's true. I've gotten to visit the office, Clive's office, and and to see, like, seeing Princess Breath, that you have it in the exhibition is awesome, because that's the very first painting I ever saw in real life, because it was there in the waiting room while I was waiting for Mark to be available to come talk to me. So
that's a perfect example. If you look at that in the Aberrat book, you have no idea how much that bowls you over when you see it.
Yeah, exactly. It took my breath away. I shouldn't say that.
Turquoise mixed with these iridescent oranges and reds, and I mean his color palette is really strong. And the only way that printing will capture that is if you really dial in how to manipulate the four-color process in order to recreate that. And so we've done that, and I don't fault that other publishers didn't, but I want somebody looking at our book to have the same reaction that you did when you got to stand in front of that 6-foot-tall painting.
Wow.
Absolutely.
And see, and I had no clue that the Aberrat Island paintings were as huge as they are.
Do you mean the beautiful moments?
Yeah, exactly.
He's not afraid of scale. I'll tell you that. I mean, seriously, he definitely paints very beautiful, large pieces.
So the book is called Clive Barker Imaginer?
Yes.
Okay, and the publisher is Century Guild, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's funny, when we were trying to come up with a title, I kept coming back to that thing, where Clive had said if he had to have a business card, it would be Imaginer. And the idea of, like, how do you describe a Jean Cocteau or a William, or people that were poets and painters and playwrights? And so I feel like the biggest thing that we're trying to do in 2014 is really help people to understand that what Clive Barker is not an author.
Or the guy who made Hellraiser.
Yeah, which actually you're right. I mean,
yes.
that is definitely the first thing you hear. But so how do you explain what he is to someone? And the thing that really keyed it in for me was when I started finding all of this interview information where he talked about the origin point of his creative process being drawing and painting, and that's what happened first, and the stories came second. And then I realized, well, that's when you've got somebody that's almost like trance channeling. I mean, he's just dialing into something. He gets the images down, and then he fills in what the story is. And that's completely different than someone who's an actor that decides when they're 38 that they want to be a rock star.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, I mean, like it goes all the way back to his origin. And so I felt like the only title that would really capture what we wanted people to understand Clive to be was to call it Imaginer.
I had I was at a book signing where there was a question and answer thing, and at one point somebody had asked him, like they always do, where do you get your ideas from? And his answer was that people take. His answer was that there's some creative force or some spiritual force that pours these colored syrups into his head, and he translates them as fast as he can, but they come in faster than he can put them down on paper.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that's funny about hearing you say that is I had said something one day that Mark Miller, his ears kind of perked up and said, that's a really interesting perspective. And I was pointing out how aggressive Clive's brushstrokes are. And I didn't take that as a sign of an aggressive personality or anything, that cliche. What I thought is that these paintings look like someone that just physically can't get the information down fast enough. So it's interesting to say that because it keys in with what I've really perceived about these.
Because he uses a lot of the impasto technique, and he paints a lot with his knife as well, which is something that is very distinctive in some of his work, right?
Yeah, I would say when you talk about that, one of the things that I think more than any technique that does not show up in those older image captures is how masterful that knife work is.
Exactly, yeah.
If you look at some of these, like I'm looking at this one right now that's got a merman undersea, and there's all this beautiful red in the background and these green fish. And when you look at the way the fish are drawn, half of the drawing is in what he pulls away with the knife. And so if you lose that in the image, you don't understand how spectacular his technique is.
Exactly. Actually, what you were talking about earlier was almost the reply to the question that I had written here, which was, as an art historian, how would you classify Clive Barker's body of painted work? Because he qualifies a bit like a Blake, or in so much as he marries his words with his art to create a complete vision.
So what's the question?
So the question is, how would you classify Clive Barker's body of painted work?
How would I classify his body of painted work? I'm not sure I understand.
In terms of influence or style or epoch, is it a modern painting?
Well, it's definitely modern. I think that what I look at. When I look at a lot of his black and white work, it reminds me a lot of like Oskar Kokoschka. Mm-hmm. I see a lot of the German expressionists in what he does. I think that when I'm looking at the psychology or the ideology of it, I definitely I feel a lot of William Blake and the idea that these are like these fever dreams.
Yeah.
And the first thing that came to mind when I really started to get my head around Clive was Jean Cocteau, and I've subsequently learned that Cocteau was a huge influence on him.
Yeah.
But I didn't know that going in, but I definitely, it makes sense now. But so those are really it's not that like I think that I see Kokoschka inherently in a psychological sense, but there's just something about the aggressiveness of his handling that reminds me a little bit of Kokoschka. So I don't know. I mean, I'm still kind of figuring a lot of that out myself, and when I write the text for the book, I'll have figured out a lot more. At the moment, I'm still taking a lot in and kind of observing.
Yeah, would it be accurate for me to say that also there appears to be some of Goya in his little black and white drawings sometimes?
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
I think that it's really hard. It just classifying him as a person in general. I get that question all the time. I live in Fairbanks, Alaska, so nobody here knows who Clive Barker is. And I get that question, who is this guy? Why do you like him? And it's like, well, I do a podcast. We've probably got, we've got probably 120 hours worth of us explaining why we like Clive Barker so far.
That's a good point. Yeah. So Clive Barker Imaginer is not only an exhibition unveiling, which unveiled this last January, but it's also the art book that's being created to share the fine artworks of Clive Barker in impeccable resolution and with a presentation of the highest quality. So you guys are going to make 1,000 hardcover books plus 100 special signed and numbered book plate editions. Is that correct?
Wait, there's going to be 1,000 hardcover, and then for the 100 that we're doing that are signed and numbered, the reason we're doing a book plate, I don't like, just when people put stickers in books. I also, being respectful of Clive's health, I think to try to cart 100 books across his desk is not respectful of his time. So what I thought would be really aesthetically beautiful and respectful is we're going to do a letterpress book plate on an old 19th century machine, and then have it tipped in the way they would have around 1910, 1920. And a big part of the way we're approaching this book is using someone like Jean Cocteau as a guidepost. Like, if this was a book from Paris in 1923, how would they have done it? And so that's the way we're going to approach both the design and the quality of the materials.
Wow, that's really interesting.
I love letterpressed editions. I have a lot of poetry printed like that from a small printer in LA called Bottle of Smoke Press, and I just love the way that the feel of holding a
nothing replaces the tactile experience, and
exactly.
We forget that with computers.
Yeah. When you look at the actually embossed letters on the paper, and even the paper, it's just amazing. So that sounds beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited. I think people are going to be surprised at the attention to detail that we're going to put into this.
And this book is coming out in time for San Diego Comic-Con in July, right?
Yes. We basically, at this point, have enough of the paintings captured to make the book. We do have some color correcting still to do. But the materials that we need to kind of do the design and get the guts of it sorted is something that we're going to be approaching as soon as we get back from San Francisco. We just had to get past the exhibition here. But for Comic-Con, that's the perfect venue to do a really nice presentation and show off some of Clive's paintings and the art book as well.
Well, and so at that point, there will those books be all pre-ordered?
That depends on the Kickstarter. At this point, I think we've got, out of the 1,100 books, I think we've got about 230 maybe pre-ordered, and so. I can't imagine that in the last 2 weeks that we're going to come up with another.
That's
true, and you've already exceeded the goal. So
well, as far as we're concerned, I'm sure that 2 of those books are already, on their way to both me and Ryan, because Ryan already pitched in, and I'm about to. So 2 of those books will definitely have loving fans to hold them and drool all over them. So that's fantastic. It seems to me also that some people may not be aware of this, but you also have been mentioned by the Grammy committee as the first artist to record on a wax cylinder. Is that true?
That was an April Fool's joke. That is not true.
Oh, okay.
I did a TED Talk on wax cylinder recordings. And so I did after the record that I had done in the TED Talk, I recorded a Kiss song on wax cylinder and released it on April 1st and put in the post that it had been recorded on earwax. Instead of wax cylinders are actually made out of something that's like soap. It's not really wax. It's more like a soap.
Wow.
Okay.
And the number of people that contacted me saying how disturbed they were and even asking how did I get the earwax to solidify enough to take the needle. I couldn't believe people believed that. Now, the Grammy one is maybe a little more believable, but that was just kind of my way of poking fun at the thought that, hey, if vinyl is coming back, maybe the...
I see. Thanks for clearing that up. I was just about to jump into the whole theme that it seems that so far, thematically, there was the feeling that old technology can still withstand the scrutiny of time, even for modern editions of things like books and music. But apparently, that is not the case.
Well, I think it's definitely the case. I just think that when you're talking about something like, a Grammy committee, that is such a money-fueled conglomerate that, that they're not going to embrace something that's that delicate, that's that precise kind of in its focus.
I was actually joking about this with Ryan before the episode. We were talking about this YouTube video that I'm sure some people have seen out there. But it has this old gentleman in a talk show showing and presenting what a wax cylinder is and how it was a one-of-a-kind piece and extremely rare. And all of a sudden, the wax cylinder just crumbles into pieces in his hand and he drops it on the floor. And it's such an awkward moment. But
it's totally fake.
Oh, okay.
It's totally fair. I mean, like if you watch it really like that with kind of a skeptical eye.
True.
So they're not.
Yeah.
They're
I feel like next I have to tell you guys there's no Santa Claus. I feel like
so are they? So they're not that. I mean, you say it's like soap, so it sounds like they are probably still pretty delicate. I mean, not like maybe explode in your hands delicate, but
no, they're not that. There's more chance of you touching the surface and kind of losing some of the sonic quality than there is like
like you can smear off the grooves or something.
Yeah, because there's oil in your skin and stuff. But no, I mean, like for it to crack the way he did, that's like. That's like, if that happens, like that means Bruce Banner is in the room and you need to get out because that's like It's not a normal.
And I agree. It's after reading the whole article about the earwax cylinder, it totally makes sense that it was an April Fool's joke. That'll teach me to be more discerning in my homework. But that was funny.
A few of us were sitting on the floor in Challengers Comics, which was my local comic store in Chicago, and they had this huge Kiss compendium of all the Kiss comics, and there's the photos in there of when they poured their blood into the vat with the red ink.
Yes.
And so, like, we were just sitting around, and I was joking, I need a gimmick for my wax cylinders, and that's when I joked. I was like, well, what do you have? Like, Kiss did blood. And then I said I should do an earwax cylinder, and everyone was like, oh, that's terrible. And it was whenever that was. It was like March.
Oh,
yeah.
It's February, March, and it's like perfect timing for me to do it for April 1st.
I am actually reading it on your WordPress, and now that I'm reading it, it completely does not make sense. Negovan and Bori collected 9 ounces of their own earwax across a 4-week period. And you totally got me. That's
January
funny.
Fools.
Yeah.
Oh man. So do you still live in Chicago and come out to LA, or is it do you have a permanent home in Los Angeles now?
I mean, my permanent home is still in Chicago, but I really don't. I don't go back and forth as much as I thought I would. I've been spending most of my time in LA. Definitely the Clive Barker thing has become a pretty full-time job in a really good way. In the sense of it has nothing to do with finances. It has to do with the fact that this is like what my unique skill sets are all come into play. And it's one of those things where if I didn't do this, 50 years from now, there would just be these fragments kind of scattered to the wind. So I feel like it was one of those moments where you look at it and it's a Herculean amount of work, but if you don't do it, nobody else is going to do it. Not that other people haven't tried, but again, it's just there are a lot of artists that ask me to represent them, and I kind of steer them to a different direction because I know I'm not the right person. And this was the first time where when Mark approached me about this, the more unattractive the proposition got, the more I realized that it completely fit like a puzzle piece with what I could do. And I just had that moment where I was like, this is, it's something that I'm supposed to do. And so it's become, Mark and I probably text on the phone till 3-4 in the morning, 7 nights a week, just about, hey, how are we going to do this? And, and I think it's really important. I think that not having been necessarily a fan of Clive's before all of this happened, spending the time that I have in trying to understand the art, who he is as a creative entity, more than holds up to even the harshest scrutiny. And there's no question in my mind at this point that 100 years from now they're going to be teaching him in school. There's no question.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
In fact, they do right now, actually, for Abarat in Alaska. There was a professor. This came out in the Abarat Companion book. There was a teacher in Alaska that's teaching her class. Ryan is he knows more about that than I do.
Peggy O'Leary at Kodiak Middle School.
Yeah, she's been doing a program based on Abarat for kids. So that's fascinating right there. And I'll say it seems like a heck of an opportunity. And for our listeners out there, I would just like to go through the timeline a little. You gained exclusive representation for the art of Clive Barker back in October of 2013. There was this press release that came out, and Clive Barker himself said, "I am delighted to be working with the fine folks of Century Guild. They understand my art, my audience, and me. What better proof of that than their celebration of art and Halloween terrors that they have invited me to be a part of this October. This is the beginning of something wonderful." And I'm sure that it is.
Yeah.
So,
it's one of the things Clive has pointed out that I don't know if I took this for granted, but I definitely agree with at this point, is that, when I look at historical artworks like the Grand Guignol theater pieces from the 1890s, or if I look at German Expressionism and like all of these things, there are threads to them, and you can see really easily how Clive's creative work fits with, whether it's André Delorde from the Grand Guignol or H.P. Lovecraft a couple decades later. And when you connect all these threads, the idea that something is acceptable or not, meaning something that happens a lot in the fine art world is they'll point to something that's illustration art. And they'll say, okay, but that's just illustration. And then they'll attempt to marginalize it. What's happening a lot now, I was at LA Art this past weekend. There's an artist, a really fantastic artist, named Andrea Crouch, and her work looks like 1980s illustration.
Uh-huh.
But, this was the painting sold for $75,000. And so what's happened is that any stigma that we might have had on a certain area, well, the next generation doesn't have that stigma. And so I guess what I'm trying to just get to the point of with Clive is that you have all of these completely fragmented areas that if you don't marginalize them, but you just take them in as something that was in its day, an important way that people express themselves, it's just a good way to then try to take his work in from that perception instead of immediately saying, oh, well, he's a horror writer that's painting, or, oh, look, he painted a monster, so it must be monster art. And I don't know if what I said necessarily made sense in a succinct way, but I think just the idea that it's all art, that it's all, Ray Bradbury in the 50s was a hack? You know what I mean? Like, people didn't take him seriously. You look at him today and you can see him. He's one of the greatest creative people that we had in the 20th century.
I agree. Yeah.
And so I think I just think that it's important to remember that, that there's a bigger picture to it. And I just think maybe that's what I'm trying to say is that, so Clive, the way that I feel like we've connected is I'm able to kind of look at his work through a lens that doesn't apply any stigmas to it.
To not marginalize.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like the exhibition Tenatus that took place on October 19th of 2013. The topic of the Grand Guignol, actually, Clive Barker has spoken extensively on how much that is an influence in his work, including some of his theater plays. There was one time when I was talking to, I traded some messages with Clive Barker on Twitter, and I asked him about Frankenstein in Love, which is a very gory theater play from one of his theater play books. And I was asking him about Artaud's Theater of Cruelty, whereas Artaud said, without an element of cruelty at the root of every spectacle, the theater is not possible. And then he goes on to say, in our present state of degeneration, it is through the skin that metaphysics must be made to re-enter our minds. And this was from an essay called The Theater and Its Double. So I asked Clive if Frankenstein in Love could be said to follow Artaud's Theater of Cruelty concept. And his reply on Twitter was, actually, that really made my day. He said, your observations about Frankenstein in Love are absolutely right. 3 decades since I wrote it, you're the first person to notice. I thought that was really fantastic. Yeah.
On Twitter, so, it's a magical place.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's magical, where you can actually speak to anyone, anytime. That's the beauty of Twitter.
Yeah. So do you have any other questions or anything, or what do you guys?
Yeah, the first time that Century Guild was brought up on Facebook, that Johnny Raymond had shared the name of the Facebook page, and it said, or the Clive Barker Imaginer page, and it said Clive Barker Imaginer art book and documentary. And so that, to us, that just came out of nowhere. I was like, holy cow, there's an art book and a documentary coming out? Yes. So I know the documentary is probably still in the early planning stages, but is there anything that you can tell us about that?
We've done some filming. We filmed Clive coming out to the Egyptian Theater. We did some filming at the opening on the 18th. The simple thing that I can say is yes, it's in its early stages, but what we're trying to do is instead of talking about his history, it's approaching his process. So instead of talking about Hellraiser or how this got sold or any of that stuff, it's just purely trying to focus on who he is as a creative entity.
And that is fantastic. Because I'm sorry, Ryan. Because once I saw, I think it was in the extra features of. Was it Midnight Meat Train? There was this documentary about him painting, and he was expounding on his painting and what it meant to him. And he was saying that as a gay man, he's not going to have kids. These are my kids. So I thought that knowing about the process is a window that seems so magical into understanding a little bit of what makes Clive tick creatively. That, we've all heard about, Hellraiser. We've all heard about, yes, he wrote Hellraiser, how he did it. But it's more interesting to know how does he do it, the whole thing. It's just he's just such a creative person.
Yeah, I'm hoping that lots of people want to know that, because that's what we're gonna explore with him.
And that's never been more than a footnote before.
Well, basically, when we started trying to lay this out, we realized that to really cover who he was, you couldn't do it in less than 10 or 12 hours. Like, how do you cover all of that? And the part that, to me, like, if I just was asking myself, well, what would you want to really know? And to be honest, like, I don't really care about how he got his first book deal or any of those kind of things. That information is all out there in interviews. What I want to know is, Mark talks about walking into Clive at his desk, and with his right hand, he's writing manuscript, and with his left hand, he's drawing an image. And so, like, to me, I want to try to capture that. I want to be able to see what that looks like, and then ask him, well, what do you think just happened? And see if he can even answer it. I don't know. I'm really curious just to try to figure out a little bit of what his process is, and see if we can't document part of that.
That's fantastic.
That sounds like something really special.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hope so. Obviously it's I feel a little bit like it's like one of those ghost hunter TV shows. Like, how do you capture something intangible?
Yes.
But we're going to ask him as many questions as we can, and we're going to kind of hover behind him for as long as we can, and do that for a few months. And then after that, look at what we caught in the footage and see if we can't put it together in a way that helps people understand that he's not a writer, he's not a director, he's not a playwright, he's not a painter. He's more than all of those things put together.
Now, is this something that would be crowdfunded or more widely distributed?
We're going to be doing most of it through time donation. One of my other secret hopes is that if the Kickstarter finds a little legs in the end, that it might help us finance a little bit of that stuff. Oh. As far as the actual filming and a lot of those things, we do have people donating their time. And the only time it'll be an issue is when we get into some of the post-production. And those are questions that I don't have answers for yet.
Okay.
But I don't expect, it's the point isn't to try to then kickstart doing a documentary. My hope is that we're able to just figure out how to do it from what we kind of have going right now.
Sure, and then once it's done, figure out how to get it out there so people can see it.
Yeah, one of the things about Kickstarter though is it really is a great promotional tool. I will admit that even like with this book, that we're just treating it like pre-orders. The book is going to be $100, $125 retail. If you buy it on Kickstarter, you get it for $75. You're getting at least 25% off. But it's also a promotional tool. So it's kind of win-win. I feel like when people ask, well, why do you do Kickstarter? I feel like it's win-win for everybody.
Yeah, because you're supporting the artists that you like seeing their project, you want it to succeed, and at the same time you also get rewards. So that's a win-win situation for both the creator and the person who's supporting the creator. Absolutely.
If Clive Barker Imaginer, the book, sells out and you find that there's demand for it still, will there be a second printing?
I would not do another hardcover. Because I want to kind of protect the idea that it's a limited opportunity. That's important to me.
Yeah.
Does that mean? I mean, if the interest was overwhelming, would we do a soft cover edition at some point that could be a little more mass market?
Mm-hmm.
That's something I would consider, but definitely not a hardcover.
Okay. The important thing here is for people to donate until the Kickstarter is over, because all the funds that go into making the book, any excess will be used to fund the documentation of the work of Clive Barker on film and the thorough archiving of his notebooks, paintings, and personal archives for posterity. That's exactly taken from the Kickstarter. So all those.
It doesn't reach a point where at a certain point, then everybody starts getting gold chains and jet skis.
Right.
Like everybody at this point has been working for months and months and months, and no one's been getting paid.
Exactly.
And so the difference is just that we would be able to potentially hire some part-time help to part with some of these, to help with scanning, just different things like that, might step up some of the time frames. But everything is going into Clive Barker land, whether it's helping to fund getting some of the documentary footage or scanning things, like every dollar that's in there is completely devoted to making sure that what Clive does is preserved.
So it's a labor of love.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would just like to ask something, which is, back when you did the Thanatos exhibition, who made the artwork for the poster, the one with Death and the Maiden?
That was an Italian collective called Malleus.
Oh, okay.
3 artists, and they work in tandem, and they don't really reveal who does what. But they're really not just fantastic artists, but they're really incredible people. And if people don't have one, we still have some on the website, and they're beautiful silk screens. And and like I said, it's not just that it's great art, but that the guys who made it are really special artists.
Yeah, I mean, I was just going to go into that in a bit, which is that you also have posters and T-shirts for sale at the Century Guild website, centuryguild.net, and they look amazing. I'm looking forward to get one. So Kickstarter. Just go on the Kickstarter and look for Clive Barker Imaginer Deluxe Hardcover Edition, and just donate, because this is going to be an amazing project. I've seen your pictures that have been posted on the Facebook page, because you guys are also on Facebook. The project for the book is also on Facebook. Just look up Clive Barker Imaginer. You'll find the Facebook page. And you have been posting some pictures there, and they look amazing. I mean, just the tiny pictures on Facebook that we can see, they already look more detailed than anything we've seen before.
Oh, I'm happy. I look forward to checking back in with you guys when the book is done. And
absolutely. When it comes to time donations, you can have all our time whenever you need promotion.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys.
Yeah.
And thank you very much.
Oh, we have one question from one of our listeners, from Steve Dillon. And Jose, you probably know what he's going to say already. He said, "Hi, is there a possibility of bringing an exhibition to Australia? Happy to hear if there's a way to happy to help if there's a way to make it happen."
I would say that the thing that people don't usually think when they ask that question is that the issue is always just financial.
Oh yeah.
Meaning if somebody had an institution or a venue that was willing to bring the paintings out there, that's something, of course, that we would do everything we could to help. People ask all the time, "Oh, well, will the show come to San Francisco? Will the show, like the show that we just had up, for example, it was a commerce show. We had whatever there were, 15 paintings, and they all sold. That's what financed us doing it. And when you send things, like a lot of times galleries in other cities will say, well, we'd love to do a show. But if you go through all the work and only one piece sells, well, then it was very, very expensive to do. And not that isn't still a beautiful thing, but there's only so many times you can afford to lose that much money to do a show. So the thing that I would just kind of say in general, and I'll try to say this even more and more publicly to people, is that if you live in a city where you'd love to have an exhibition, we do have enough collectors that have works that would be happy to loan things. It's just an issue of how do you get the paintings there and then have a venue in which to show them. So talk to your local museums if there's smaller museums, or if there's any kind of cultural centers or things like that. And if someone's interested, I mean, the fans can do more than I can. If there's a fan in Seattle that, that lobbies the Fry Museum really, really hard, and they say, yeah, we would do this. Then it's just mechanical. But yeah, I mean, I get asked 10 times a week, will the show come to Dublin?
Exactly.
It's like, yeah.
As fans who also started like events and regarding Clive Barker stuff like Occupy Midian, that whole movement was created by me, Ryan, and another friend of ours, Roger. And we know how hard it is. Like Russell was flying to all those Cabal Cut screenings, and people were saying, "Oh, can you come over to Canada? Can you come over to Japan? Can you come over to Australia?" And it was hard because not every place can afford to, not every event can afford to pay for the expenses necessary to fly someone there. So the
reason I just want people to understand that is so they don't think that, there's no snob factor about, oh, well, we're not going to bring it to the city.
Sure.
I mean, I wouldn't charge for my time. Clive would never charge any kind of exhibition fee. It's not about that. It's just purely about
logistics.
Not costing money, not saying, and but we'll see. I mean, I think it's more likely that you're going to see something happen in London sooner. We've got a lot of collectors there, and that's something that's probably sooner on the radar. But put it out there in the world. It never hurts to say it, that if someone's in a city and they've got a cultural center or a small museum that would love to do something for Clive, it's something that we would love to see happen. I'd love for people to get to see these in person.
All right. Well, they can go on CenturyGuild.net and find Century Guild on Tumblr and all those places, and the Kickstarter. So that's wonderful. I just have one. It's a last comment. It's just something that I noticed when I was researching for this episode, which is that you at one point were editor of a compilation of Dan Brereton work. Is that correct?
Yes.
Because I actually own an original from Dan Brereton from a Eclipse graphic novel called Dread, which was an adaptation of the Clive Barker story. It's a beautiful piece. It's so wonderful to look at it and see the crystal clear, original, and not just the printed version, but people actually have no idea how much more impressive, an actual piece of art looks like in person than when you just see a picture of it. It's just amazing.
Especially painted work.
Yeah,
especially painted work. And Dan Brereton is extraordinary.
He is, absolutely.
Yeah, he's an incredible painter.
Fantastic piece. Well, thank you again for allowing us to ask you a few questions, and we hope to catch you again on the podcast whenever you have something you need to announce.
Absolutely. No, thank you guys so much, and I look forward to sharing this when it goes live. Thanks again.
Yeah, we should be probably sometime in the next couple of days.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you so much.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, well, you can reach us on the web at www.clivebarkercast.com. Leave us a review on iTunes. We're on Podomatic, Xbox Music Store, TuneIn Radio, Stitcher, Double Twist, BlackBerry, and Pocket Cast. You can like our page on Facebook, join the Occupy Midian group. On Twitter, we're at BarkerCast and at Occupy Midian. And the forum is www.clivebarkerfans.com/forum. Theme by Colin Lakativa. Bandwidth for this episode today was provided by Pyramid Gallery. So they have, if we've talked about this before, but they have really awesome replicas of the puzzle box from Hellraiser, and Max has really kind of dug deep into the mythology of the Books of the Damned and recreated puzzle boxes, that were mentioned in the Books of the Damned as well. So different configurations besides just the Lament configuration. So anyway, go to pyramidgallery.com. Go check that out. Thanks so much to them for sponsoring us and helping us out. And this was episode number 63.